I told you that chart's not to scale. Look at the difference in size between the fertilized egg and the polar body. In other words, the body's not wasting a lot of effort here on these cells. They're going to degenerate. So very little cytoplasm in these guys. Like I say, the polar body is just a way to get rid of excess chromosomes without wasting a lot of precious cytoplasm in the process. Now here's the egg. This is the important cell. Okay? It divides by mitosis into two daughter cells. That's a two-cell stage. Each of these divide into two more daughter cells. Four-cell stage. Still got the polar body clean on there. Okay, it's going to eventually degenerate. Each of those divide into eight-cell stage. 16, 32, 64, 128, 512, 1024, 2048. It keeps increasing by multiples of 2 with each division. Okay? Now we reach a stage eventually where we get a solid ball of cells. And in humans, it's about a 32-cell stage, which you don't have. This actually represents an invertebrate, but the early development is much like vertebrates. Okay, these early stages. So let's pretend there are 32 cells here. Actually, it's only 16. This is called a morula, which means berry. It's a solid ball of cells. But notice what's happening. Okay? These are about the same size. So as the division occurs, you get more cells, but they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That's what I said. That's cleavage. Increase in the cell number, but an appreciable increase in the size of the embryo, because we got smaller cells for each division. And it keeps dividing until you get a ball of cells, okay, with a cavity inside. This is called the blastocyst. The old name is blastula, and I'll accept either term. But it's a ball of cells with a cavity. And this, by the way, is the stage, here it is intact, that emerges from the oviduct in the uterine cavity. So up to this point, all this is going on in the oviduct as that fertilized egg is passing down en route to the uterus. Development has already started. And when it comes out of the uterine cavity, here it is. It's a blastocyst. This is what's going to implant in the uterine lining and continue development. If it doesn't implant, it's going to degenerate. It's got to have the blood supply and the glandular development in the stratum functionalis to maintain this, because it's going to get bigger, demands for nutrients are going to get larger and larger, so it's got to implant or it's not going to go anywhere. Okay. Here's the same thing, it's actually a little bit more accurate. Okay, here's our egg cell, here's the nucleus of the egg cell, this little thing right in here, that's the sperm cell. And notice how small it is. There's a little thread in there, tiny. So when I said they shed excess cytoplasm, I mean that. They got a flagellum, very prominent. Look at the head of the sperm cell. Pinky. So you can see why the egg cell has to contribute the cytoplasm. There's nothing from the sperm cell. How much more than the yolk cells. Don't you occur that big. Right? And 2-cell stage. 4-cell stage. Supposed to be 8. Count 7 because one has a completed division. Okay? And then this now is the morula. I think it has about 32. Okay? For ambition, you can count more. Okay? But 32-cell stage, that's a solid ball of cells called a morula. That's a recognizable stage. Okay? And then as the cells continue dividing, get smaller and smaller. Now we got a cavity inside. This is the blastocyst. This also is blastocyst. But something that wasn't shown on that one because it's an invertebrate embryo is this. This is the inner cell mass. This becomes the embryo. Okay? The cells on the outside have a fancy name. They're called the trophoblast. And these are the cells that produce HCG. Remember I said it's cells around the embryo? What does HCG do? Other than tell you you're pregnant? Okay? What's the purpose of HCG? It is to maintain the corpus luteum, to keep producing the female sex hormones, particularly estrogen, to maintain the endometrium, to keep that pregnancy viable. Okay? So trophoblast cells, the cells on the outside of the blastocyst. By the way, these individual cells are also called blastomeres. Okay? When I say what is this layer of cells, what I'm looking for is trophoblast. Okay? And again, they produce the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, which maintains the corpus luteum, which in turn maintains the endometrium by virtue of the progesterone it produces. Okay? What's the other hormone that maintains the corpus luteum, at least initially? Luteinizing hormone, LH. Okay? Okay, what is eventually going to happen, I'll talk about that in the lecture, is this inner cell mass is going to flatten out into a bilayered embryonic disc. And it's starting to show here. And here you have it. Okay, we're still in a blastocyst stage, but now at this point it's already implanted. And now it's going to start to enlarge. Okay? And if you look, sheet. Let's see, we call it blastocyst cell mass. Okay. Now a very important process occurs. It's called gastrulation. Up to this point, all the cells are basically the same, identical to one another. They're all diploid. They all look the same.